Chancellor has to say. Right now, with what's happening on the news front, and I'll have the front pages of the papers after Charlotte with a rundown. What have you got?
Thanks, Eamon. The man behind the attempted bomb attack on New York's Times Square has warned that extremists will continue to target the United States. Faisal Shahzad delivered a chilling message as he admitted 10 charges relating to the failed plot. Kitty Logan has the details.
He faces life
dead. Well, despite it being a crucial match for England, most employers in London aren't making any special arrangements to let their staff watch tomorrow's World Cup game against Slovenia. A poll of firms showed that 2/3 aren't planning any changes to their daily routine because they can't afford a drop in productivity. Some larger companies will be allowing their workers to watch the game, but it still has to be in the office. Do you think they might wonder why nobody answers the phones around that time suspiciously?
Yeah.
Just got to...
It's one of the benefits for us getting up so early and working through the night.
We don't have to come up with an excuse.
No, we
won't be suddenly running off around the back.
We just fall asleep in front of it like that by the time it gets round
there. It might be a great game, though. Maybe we'll be glued to our sets.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know.
You can always hope, Charlotte. Front page of the papers, let's look at those. George Pascal Watson with his take and on what the papers are saying right after this from Charlotte.
Thanks, Eamon. A man has pleaded guilty to attempting to set off a car bomb in New York's Times Square last month. Pakistani-American Faisal Shahzad admitted 10 charges without them.
OK, we're looking for your opinions on stories in the news today. You can tweet us at Sky Charlotte, at Eamon Holmes, news@sky.com. This is George Pascal Watson. He's got the newspapers looking at their take on this budget day. It's an emergency budget, George. But how does it sit in this coalition government with everything the Lib Dems said, you know, before the election?
Well, you've got a situation where both the Lib Dems and the Tories know now that there's no choice. Having looked at the books, and as your banking analyst was saying, the deficit being 155 billion quid, both parties have to rally around this flag of, as the Times says, the hardest budget. The News of the World at the weekend was talking about blood on the floors, blood on the walls. You know, this is a really severe time. So if you're a Lib Dem, if you're a Tory, you have to get around and unite around what's going to happen this afternoon.
What sort of damage, when you look at all this and you reflect if the Labour government had have been re-elected again, it doesn't look well for them how they were keeping house, does it? Well,
it doesn't really. I mean, Alistair Darling is quoted on the front page of the Financial Times here, and he says that this is no time to cut the growth prospects of the country. But actually, I think the reality is the whole of the city now, all the international money markets, all the big players in the world, if you like, financially, have now said, actually, hanging on and not tackling the deficit now is a very bad thing and would be the worst thing to do. So it is beginning to look like Labour were covering up the reality of the situation. I won't say lying, but I mean, they certainly were trying to massage the figures to the best that they could. And it's quite clear now that the way forward is very severe cuts, which we're going to see today. We're also going to see some tax rises, although interesting in the Financial Times. There is a line there by George Parker, the very good political editor, in which he says that VAT may not need to go up today because Labour had in fact deferred some tax rises in their budget only 3 months ago. And can you remember, it was only 3 months ago that Alistair Darling was standing up and doing his own budget.
Now, that's the doom and gloom, but we've also got this headline in the Financial Times that nearly 1 million workers are going to be taken out of the income tax system. So maybe some better news for those on lower paid jobs.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I was speaking to people in the Treasury yesterday and they were saying that the fairness is going to be the central word of George Osborne's emergency budget today. And we see that by
the fact... Is this the Lib Dem influence?
Well, I don't think it is, actually. I think it's the influence of the fact that George Osborne is a brilliant political strategist. He just is. He's the power behind David Cameron in many ways and politically.
Why does he get so much criticism then?
I think that he has had a very difficult time over the last 2 or 3 years because the city has felt he's not been focused enough on their troubles, on finance. He's been more interested in political strategy. But, you know, in the end, the Conservatives had to get into government and he was a key player. And so what he's decided is that 900,000 people, the lowest paid workers, will come out of income tax altogether. That's because he's going to raise our tax thresholds, the amount at which we start paying tax. And that's going to be a huge boost. And interestingly, Eamon, £3.7 billion that's going to cost the government. But that's exactly the same amount of money I think you'll find that the banks will have to pay after today's emergency budget in this new banking tax.
Well, there'll be no tears about that, will there?
Well, that's a great example of equality.
Balancing the books.
Exactly.
you know, we talk about this recession, but really, I suppose from today we are seeing the start of a public sector recession.
We are. I mean, one of the first things that's going to happen today is you'll hear that public sector pensions will be frozen, public sector pay will be frozen. You know, and these are just the difficult moments before we get into the situation where public sector jobs will have to go. We see also in the Sun today there's a story about Andrew Lansley cancelling, I think, £800 million worth of management jobs in the NHS. So, you know, there's no side of Whitehall which is going to be left untouched.
A couple of things I want to touch on outside the budget. One is Prince Harry in Mozambique, following the footsteps of his mum with the landmines, and they're quite emotive pictures and quite nostalgic pictures as well. But has there been a legacy from Diana? Have things got better on that front?
Well, it's certainly something that she drew huge attention to, and although the problem still exists, I mean, there are thousands and thousands of bombs buried all over places in Africa, which, you know, it's almost an impossible task. But I think that Prince Harry going back 20 years after his mum did, to a slightly different place. She was in Angola, he's gone to Mozambique. I think it helps draw attention to a very, very important cause.
Now, today at Wimbledon, the cause is lost there, is it? With Brits, everybody's looking at Andy Murray. You've taken a picture of Laura Robson, front page of the Daily Mail. Poor Laura.
Poor old Laura.
She's out. I mean, that face says it all. That's like Charlotte's face in the morning with that big lip on there, you know, but so...
Well, she woke up yesterday, Laura Robson, our 16-year-old hope, and she knew she was playing on centre court against the fourth seeded in the world, and she said, all I wanted to do was make sure I didn't leave the court. 6-love, 6-love.
Yes.
Which is kind of, I know what she means, but it's kind of a defeatist attitude. But, you know, the tragedy is she and 3 other British women went out yesterday. Now the only singles player representing our great country is Andy Murray. So let's hope that Andy Murray and the England football team can pull something out the bag and we can prolong a summer of sport.
But Andy Murray's got to lighten up, hasn't he? If he's enjoying himself, he better let his face know it this time round.
It would be nice to just to get a feel from Andy Murray that he's enjoying life and he appreciates what a great position he's in, and the whole country's behind him.
But he takes it seriously, doesn't he? That's why he's, you know, so focused.
Well, I think there's a difference between taking it seriously and being focused and just lightening up a bit, as Eamon says, and letting us into the party a little bit.
He makes an issue out of everything. I mean, I know he's tweeted and said he will bow in front of the Queen yesterday, but why couldn't he just say it immediately? He's surrounded by so many advisors. Does he really need that much advice and that much image? You know, be pictured with his girlfriend, make him look happy. He just, it doesn't seem to come naturally to him.
I think a lot of us feel that way, but at the same time, he is a top sportsman at the very, very top of his game, and you do need support under those circumstances. He's under huge pressure. OK, so if you are a top sportsman, do you have to be a miserable git as well? I mean, I know from experience being a sports reporter through the years that a lot of them are miserable and they don't develop personalities until they become sort of downhill. I think that's right, and I think that they're so focused on their sport, so focused on being number one, that all else falls away, and they never get a chance to develop, as you say. OK, we're going to take a break. We're back. We're talking about Russell Brand, a new film for...
I still didn't pick up what get him to the Greek means. Did we get that? No?
Maybe we'll have to watch it and find out.
Yeah, or tweet us and let us know this morning at Eamon Holmes at Sky Charlotte, at Lucy Weather, or news@sky.com. You can email us. You were at Wimbledon yesterday.
I was. I had a lovely day. It's really hot in the sunshine as well. Much stronger sun than I anticipated. The guy I was with.
OK, let's take a break there, Lucy. Thanks for that. It's emergency budget day. We've got the preview, the details. Wonders do your income tax returns. That budget calculator might be quite good. Some other uses behind it. Front pages of the papers coming your way after Charlotte brings you right up to date with what else is happening news-wise.
Thanks, Eamon. The man behind an attempted bomb attack on New York's Times Square has warned that extremists will continue to target the United States. Faisal Shahzad delivered the chilling message as he admitted 10 charges relating to the failed plot. Kitty Logan has the details.
He faces life.
I just remember, I've made special arrangements. Have you made special arrangements? Yeah, I'm actually coming down your neck of the woods to my mate's house to watch it. Do you want to come round?
Yeah, that'd be lovely, thanks.
Yes, you get the crisps in and the beers and that'll be okay.
I'm not just serving you drinks and snacks, if that's what you think.
Well, front pages of the papers dominated by the update news-wise. What have you got?
Thanks, Eamon. And a man who's pleaded guilty to attempting to set off a car bomb in Times Square in New York. He's warned that extremists will continue to target the United States. Faisal Shehzad delivered...
What special arrangements are you making to watch the football tomorrow? Because if you are, we'd like to know. We might pop round. Whatever you're doing. Are you making any special, as a Scotsman, are you making any special arrangements? Or not?
I hate to announce to the nation I'll be on the golf course with Sky News' Jeff Randall tomorrow afternoon.
Such is your interest.
Well, no, we can't take the stress, so we just thought we'd get out of it.
What about this budget today, an emergency budget? And we're talking about it will hurt everyone. Not necessarily so with this first story that you've got here, this first take in the Telegraph.
Well, you know, all the front pages in Fleet Street have been briefed. Certainly all the broadsheets, the Financial Times, the Times, the Telegraph here, making it quite clear that almost 1 million people on the lowest salaries will be taken out of income tax altogether.